Welcome, everyone, to It's Time to Excel, where we inspire and we ignite all those possibilities that are all around us. We're so glad to have you here today, and we look forward to just continuing our topic. Last week, we talked a little bit about budgeting, kind of what the purpose of a budget was, kind of why you want a budget, and we're going to continue on that conversation, as I said, for this entire month. So, we're going to jump in this week and just kind of continue us to the next step forward. We kind of talked about what makes up a budget. We're looking at income, we're looking at expenses, we're kind of looking at what the difference of those are, which one's bigger, which one's less. All of that puts together. It's a big puzzle. It's a big puzzle. But it's also, as we kind of talked a little bit about last week, it is the crystal ball. It's the best crystal ball you're going to have for your business. So I thought today we would jump right on in here and just take a few moments and see how simple creating a budget is. Because after all, we want you to excel. Because that's the whole purpose of this, is to help you excel in your business. So let's just jump right on in there and keep on moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and add, you guessed it, an Excel spreadsheet. We're going to make this super, super simple. And I figured, why not build one together, even if it's just a basic one? And I wanted to kind of give you some pointers on what makes sense, how to kind of put it together, and just give you an idea of where you could potentially start in a very simple budget to get things kicked off. So this is just literally a blank spreadsheet. That's all we're dealing with. This is your budget, really. Now, really, all we need to do is try to figure out what's going on. So if you're familiar with Excel, this works also in Google Sheets, of course, but I'm an Excel person. So give it a title if you want, whatever ends up working. So let's take a look at this. So what are the components, do you remember from last week, of a budget? Well, of course, the first thing is our income. Well, let's take it one step further. In my world, let's say you have a couple of sources of income. You can break this down. You can say, okay, let's just use me for an example. Training and consulting. Easy way to think of it. Maybe I have training income. Maybe I have some consulting income. All I'm doing is starting to build out some columns, and we're going to let the computer do the math for us. And that's what a budget's all about. We're just looking at numbers. Because remember, the budget is our crystal ball. The budget is taking a look at the past and figuring out maybe, just maybe, how we can move forward in a direction. Because in Dave Ramsey's words, budget is simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And that's what we're going to do. So all we do is taking this first couple of columns. You, of course, can widen these up a little bit. And we're going to start there. So let's say I've got two sources. Okay, fine. Gives you an idea. It's also made up of expenses. What do I mean by that? You can have fixed expenses. We could get all kinds of craziness and details on here. That's a lot of the reason we use the software, so that we can track all of this. But let's keep this one simple. Let's just come up with a couple of expenses that we use. So most businesses have some advertising, marketing. That's probably one. Let's see, what else would you think of? We probably have, let's see, I'm just going to chunk websites, all that kind of stuff, all into there. What about insurance? Most businesses are going to have some type of insurance. The dreaded taxes. You're going to have taxes. Now, think about it this way. If you don't have taxes, everybody, now I'm not saying you don't want to maximize and pay just your fair share of those taxes. And part of the reason we're putting this stuff together is so that you take full advantage of the deductions that are legitimate for your business, and so that we can get good, accurate numbers. But let's think about this. If you're paying taxes, what's that tell you? I want to be able to pay taxes. You know why? Because it means I'm turning a profit. And so will you. And that's why we're starting to look at this. But that's definitely an expense that we're going to have. And we also, I'm going to say salary and pay. Because guess what? We've talked about this before. Your business is supposed to support your lifestyle. What other types of expenses do we have? You have that advertising and marketing. You have software. That's usually a big one. Software. We talked a lot about that. So what we can do, and let's just keep this super simple. I'm not even, you get the idea. This list is going to be a lot longer. Let's face facts. But let's just go ahead and see how we can make a very quick spreadsheet to get a budget to start where you're at. And this is one thing that we can do. And once we get everything going, this is something that I'm rolling out for my clients is once we get the system in place and we get a good tracking system in place, this is our next step moving forward because we want to focus on excelling your profits. And that's rolling out here towards the end of this year. That's going to be an offering and a service that's available for my clients because you know what? We got to be looking at these numbers. And the cool thing is, depending on what version you're on QuickBooks, you may have some of this already built into your software that you don't even know about. But in the meantime, let's just keep it super, super simple. So training, let's say we start with the first thing that we're thinking about is we want to look at the past. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Take a look at the last year. Take a look at the last month. Take a look at what was going on. So if you've never done a budget before and you have the numbers, let's say you've been tracking, you just really haven't been proactive on it, but you have something there. Take your bank statements. If you've got the software, run your report. Let's see what your expenses and your income were. So taking a look for that. So let's go ahead and thank you, Melinda. I am trying to help and try to get some guidance out there. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Training. So let's say that in the past, and I look back, and we're going to keep numbers really, really simple here today. So let's say the $1,000 we had training. I'm going to have a good month. And consulting, maybe I had $2,500. Okay. So that is the income that I've had in the past. Now, let's say that you're looking at a year. If that was the case, you can look at last year's tax records and start there. If that's what you have, look at your last year's tax records. And we can take a look there. So if you had, say, $12,000 in the year, guess what that is? That's $1,000 a month. So our goal is to try to get to a month. That's kind of where we're heading. So that's where we're going. So we're going to say that we had 1,000. And this is our income number. Now, the cool thing about Excel is we can make this easy. We can use formulas to go ahead and grab that. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight that just so we can kind of see it on the screen here. So right now we have $3,500 coming in income. Let's take a look at this as well. I look back. Remember, this is the past. If we're looking for that, what are we looking at? So let's say we had advertising. Maybe we had marketing and some advertising and Facebook ads and whatever. As I said, we're going to keep numbers simple. Let's say that was $200. Insurance. Let me think about this one. I only pay that once a year. I only pay that 6 months. So what can I do? Okay, that's one of these ones. Let's look and see what the actual number is. And maybe we take a look and say, okay, if I pay $1,200 a year, you can see where I'm going. Keeping math simple right now. That basically means it's $100 a month. What did I do? 1,200 divided by 12 gives me $100 a month. This one's a little bit wiggle room. You're not paying it each month, but it is an expense of your business. Taxes, you can take a look and kind of see where you're at there. This usually ends up being a percentage. So maybe, just maybe, this one needs to move down here a little bit, and we'll kind of look at that a little differently. Software, let's say that one. Have maybe another $50 here, or salary. Whoops, sorry, wrong column. So let's say that we're getting $500 a month here, and software at $100. You get the idea. We're filling these in, seeing what's going on. Now, this one also tends to be a little bit variable. So maybe I'll move that one down there too. So when you're building your budget, you can see in Excel, you know what needs to be there. You can reorganize it very quickly. You can see you can move things around quickly enough, group them differently so that we can start making this useful for you. So if we look at that, let's say taxes, we look at last year, we'll just say maybe we'll budget out for, if we paid, once again, $1,200 in taxes last year, that's $100 a month that we're dealing with. So you can kind of see the direction we're going. And how much salary did you take? If you took out of your business, say $10,000 for the whole year, what's that equate out to? Very simply, 10,000 divided by 12. The formula can be done for you. The math can be there. I tend to round things, so let's just say 800. And now that we're looking at expenses, these two are a little bit different, so we might have a little more of a conversation on those later on. But remember what we're doing. Simple, start where you're at. Taking a look at how we can create this. So if I go ahead and I do a sum of these guys here, there is my expenses. Oh, wait. There were some more, remember, because we still got to count this in to what's going on because we want to see just how profitable our business is. We got to start building these in. And as you think of them, you add them. No big deal. We just keep adding them in. So I can go ahead and do that, and I can get that formula as well. So Excel takes the math out of it. That's what I was saying. So in essence, here's what we've got. Income of 3,500, and then the addition of the 400 and 900. So basically, where are we at? In theory, if I take my income less my expenses, I should have made some money. So now I'm starting to see kind of what's going on. This 2,200 is more quote unquote profit. Now we know we're missing stuff, but you're starting to get the idea. And as I said, today what we're doing is we're trying to just get a really good basic understanding of how we can take a blank spreadsheet and turn it into something that might work. So we've got this basic. This is kind of where the past is. And if we assume that the past carries into the future, we can now start taking and looking into that future crystal ball and say, okay, well, maybe if I'm kind of going here at 3,500, you know what? I want to increase that to say 5,000 each month. I can start using formulas. I can start using math. There's all kinds of different things, but let's just take it to the very basics. I'm going to do 5,000. So if I take 5,000 divided by 12, that's how much? 400 a month. So it's all depending on what I'm looking for. It all depends on what numbers I have, where I'm going. If I want to make $20,000 next year, take that divided by 12. That's my 1,600. So basically now you're starting to see what we can do for the future. That being the case, so now I can go and fill in the numbers. So if I know that I'm assuming that, okay, I want to have next month, I'm looking at maybe 5,000. That's a pretty big increase. Let's say 4,000. I'm going to increase by $500, get a couple extra clients. My expenses are starting to get in here as well. So they're probably not going to change much. Maybe they are. We don't know. Once I get into here, oh, I missed a few things. Here's my salary. So now I can start juggling and I can start using formulas. And guess what? As I start entering these numbers here, oh, wait a minute. I need to increase that salary. Maybe I want 1,000 here. And I want to go ahead and I want to have, let's see, where are we at? Taxes. Oh, if I'm making some money, I may need to increase that a little bit. I'm guessing. But I'm getting an idea, but I'm starting to see numbers. The more history you have, so the more tracking you have done, the more you can look month by month by month into the past, the better and more accurate guess. Yes, it is an accurate guess. Yeah, you get the idea. It's the future crystal ball as we're looking. But we can let the formulas help us out. So if I put my formula in, it's that minus all of these expenses. And guess what? There's my number. That's a little hard to read. So let's change that to being a little different color. There, let's try it a little later. So we can get an idea. Okay, well, maybe I missed something. Maybe there's another expense over here that I need. Maybe I had some travel that I didn't account for. I need to be accounting for that. So maybe that is another $100 a month. As you can see, the more I get in here, the more accurate. The bottom line is where we're working with. So am I looking for a profit? At least I have something to work with. But I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to say unexpected expenses, also known as an emergency fund, a savings. You get the idea. I want that to be a line item on your budget. So what can that be? Maybe I want to put $100 a month. It depends on what I'm making. I don't care if it's even $5 a week. Let's figure something out. We just need to get it in there. And it does help if you have the right formulas, because you can see I forgot to put that in there. But this is why I'm using easy numbers today, so we can see. But you get the idea. So it's going to update. Well, wait a minute. Maybe I need to increase that because I got some extra. Look at this. Now I'm starting to see. And when we're looking at a budget, a lot of times what we'll do is we will go ahead and what they call zero budget. So we want to account for every dollar. And that's what Dave Ramey's talking about. So we still have $18 to account for. What I mean by that, it means we need to tell it where it needs to go. So now I have a real good idea. So if my software, and I look at my actual, because this is my budget column, and I look at my numbers at the end of the month, because this is the beginning of the month, what I think is going to happen. This is the end of the month, what really happened. Maybe I spent 120. Well, if that's the case, then guess what? I'm 20 bucks in the hole. That can add up quickly. But by looking at these numbers, I can make the appropriate adjustments. Maybe going forward, I need to move a little bit more, maybe not. It allows me to have that crystal ball. And that's how simple a budget can be. Real simple, real basic, moving forward. Take your past, get the details as much as you have. Start where you're at. If it's a tax return, great. If it's bank statements, great. Start where you're at. Get accounting software in place and get those reports so that you can get a real good idea of what has happened, so that you can guess what may happen and start gearing yourself and guiding yourself to get where you want to go. And of course, that ultimate thing is to make sure you have a paycheck. Make sure you have a paycheck, and you can juggle these numbers if you use Excel, making it very, very simple. And don't forget, make sure you budget in that unexpected piece as well. So Melinda, thank you so much for joining us. It was so great to have you here. And I look forward to each and every one of you coming back and joining us again for It's Time to Excel. See you here next week. Have a good one.